everyone, it's your big bad Akka Rasate out here in Singapore, and it's about 1 in the morning. It is finally the end of our Putanda celebrations, and honestly, nothing really changed for me. So, the same celebration that we would have had every year since I've been home is basically what we did during quarantine COVID season. Just the two of us, nice and quiet, chilling at home, doing what we do best, just enjoying each other's company. So, with that being said, I watched a lot of TV with her today, and I realized that there is a specific phrase that keeps popping up, and that's not just in the movies, it's in everyday life as well, because I've borne witness to thousands of conversations from people of all walks of life, from all over the world. Age is regardless of age. Honestly, I've had so many people say this, and that is to say, I had no choice. When someone says, I had no choice, this is the reason I did something, I had no choice, what they really are avoiding saying is the fact that they saw no other options. It's a very different thing to say I had no choice versus I saw no other options. I saw no other options means that you're admitting to the fact that you did not seek enough counsel to find another option. You went with what you thought was best, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. At that point in your life, this is where you were. This is the best you could do, and you did it. You made a decision. You couldn't stall any longer. You did what you had to do. I get it. But in order to say that you had no other choice is actually false. It's actually a lie. You're lying to yourself. Most of the time, there are other ways to do things. There are other ways to see things. There are plenty of other perspectives. Other people may have been able to use their imagination a little bit differently and found some other way to do what you needed to do. Or they may have been able to step out of their comfort zone and do what they were afraid of doing in the first place. But for those of you who find yourself saying, I had no choice, now trust me, I've done it myself. When I said I had no choice, at that time, I did not consider anyone else's point of view. I did not consider that there might be any other way to do things. At that point in time, my view of the world was so limited that I only saw this or that as an option. Let me give you a very, very personal example. Unfortunately, I have been through 5 pregnancies. And I say unfortunately because 4 of the 5 ended in abortion. And I'm not proud to say that. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, yeah, I've been through. No, it's not like that at all. I beat myself up over this a lot. I still do. It's not over. I still feel like I have so much more to make up for. But hear me when I said this. At the time, I did not see how I had another choice that was acceptable to me. I considered everything that I knew. At the time, the very first one, I was hell-bent on not being a single parent. Now, my parents are married, but my mom was the one who raised us. My dad was overseas working all the time, and I know what it's like to have a single-parent household. I know the stress my mom went through. I watched it firsthand. It's difficult. It's not easy, and I did everything I could to avoid that situation, but guess what? I guess that's what was in the cards for me anyway. That first decision sucked, and I mean sucked. All I wanted was for my boyfriend of 3 years to be a little bit excited. And I get it. It hit him different. We weren't done with college yet. He was still playing football. He was on a football scholarship. And the first thing out of his mouth was, well, I guess I better quit my scholarship and go find a job instead, because I'm not going to graduate, and I'm not going to be able to play football ever again because I'll have a kid all of a sudden. I'm thinking, wow, this is worse than a ball and chain. I've sentenced you to life now? Really? Because that's not at all how I felt about being pregnant. But push came to shove, and his view of life kind of won out, and I felt terrible about dragging him into a situation where he was going to be miserable and possibly make me miserable and possibly make the child miserable, and I didn't want that. So I chose abortion. It sucked, and I didn't realize how much it was going to suck until afterwards. My veins are really small. They roll a lot. There was no way they could get the needle to go into my vein to be able to give me the anesthetic that would knock me out. So, honey, I was awake for the whole thing. And it sucked. Not to mention the depression that followed, the suicidal thoughts that followed, this heavy cloud that weighed me down afterwards. And I swore after that it would never happen again. I would not put myself in a position where that could ever be a possibility. Well, guess what? I fell in love again. And this was many years after the fact, but I fell in love again. And this time, it was a man who had children. And I thought, wow, he was doing really well for himself. He was doing the best he could by his kids. He carted them everywhere. He doted on them. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. He is such a good dad. And I was thinking, okay, cool. Maybe I could actually be with this guy, and raising his kids would help me make up for the fact that, I did get rid of one of my own. So then I have two. Yes, they weren't by me. They weren't of my blood, but I could raise two kids and make up for the sin that I had committed myself. Unfortunately, I got pregnant. But this time, even though I told him before, like, I've been through this before, I don't want to do it again, this is not something I want. Unfortunately, at the time, I had been hit with a lot of disasters one after another. I had been through an eviction notice. I moved in with some friends from work, and then our apartment caught fire, and suddenly I was homeless, and my office was lovely enough to put me up in a hotel for a couple of days until I figured out where to live next. And guess what? By then, we decided, all right, we've been dating for a while, and I'm with you all the time anyway. Let's go find a place together. So we did, and we moved in together. But what also was happening was he was slowly alienating me from all of my friends and family. And I didn't notice it at the time. I was like, nah, you know what? If they're coming at you like this and they're talking about they want you, and they're, my girlfriends are trying to get with you, and the guys are talking shit about me behind my back, I don't need none of these people. I will cut them off happily. Well, I alienated myself in his name to protect the relationship. And soon I found myself pregnant, and in fear of losing the home I finally had found after months and months of being displaced. And so at that point, I was afraid of keeping the baby and trying to make it on my own because, like I said, I just moved in with him. We were living together in the middle of nowhere, but we were living together, and I was afraid of being kicked out the house. Like, would he allow me to come back and take my stuff? Would he allow me to, stay a couple more days until I figured out what I was going to do with my life? Like, what would that look like? And I was terrified. And my dreams or my idea of the situation came to a screeching halt when my nightmare became reality, because one day when we were supposed to go to the clinic, I tried to convince him otherwise on the way in the car, and he stopped me in the middle of Newport News in a weird industrial area. I didn't know where I was. He was driving my car, and he parked in like a warehouse parking lot. And he got out the car, he left the keys in the car, he got out the car, and he started walking away. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to leave me in the big bad news by myself. And what am I going to do? I was terrified. And so I did what I thought was right at the time. I ran after him. And I said, you know what? Never mind. You know what? I will do whatever you want. Just stay with me. Don't leave. At the time, I thought I had no other choice. Looking back, damn right I had another choice. But I was afraid. I was terrified. And so I thought I had no other choice. And so I went through with it again, knowing full well that my veins are too small. I'm not going to get knocked out for this. I'm going to feel every wretched moment. The reason I'm opening up about this really, really big wound of mine is because I need you to understand, in that moment, yes, I could have been pro-life. Yes, I know what it's like to have the love of a child because it is unconditional. It is so overwhelmingly complete. They worship you because they don't know any better. And it's almost like you get a fresh start at life. And I chose this man over that. Part of me was afraid to go home with my tail tucked between my legs to say, hey, I got pregnant by this dude, and I'm going to raise this kid by myself. I know if I'd have made my mind up and I was strong enough to carry out that path instead, my family would have gotten over it eventually. But I was too scared to go home, and I was too scared to leave him, and I didn't know what else to do. So, at the time, I had no choice, or so I thought. Hindsight is 20/20, you guys. But I get it. In that moment, it's terrifying. It's why so many women and some men get stuck in domestic abuse situations where they love the person dearly and they know in their right mind they would never hurt them. But guess what? The emotional abuse continues to happen. The physical abuse continues to happen. The sexual abuse continues to happen. And somehow or another, they will calm you back down and say, you know what, I lost it for a moment. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I've been through all of that. And it takes years for some people to escape that pattern. It takes years for them to recognize the pattern. But I'm telling you, the next time you say, I don't have a choice, I want you to be able to stop in your tracks because you've heard this podcast. I want you to think about that. Do I really not have another choice? Is there really nothing else I could do? There's no other way that I could get through this situation. Most of the time, I would advise you to go consult somebody, ask somebody, and please ask somebody who's been through something that you're going through so you can get legitimate information. It's almost the same as asking for business advice. You don't ask people who have just started a home-based business for advice because they haven't made it through any big obstacles yet. They're still in that honeymoon phase where they're excited about their idea. I need you to ask people who have roughed it a couple of years. They've cut down, they've cut back, they've quit, they've started back up again. They know a little bit. And they are exactly where you want to be, as in they've achieved all that you want to at this point in time. So they can really advise you. Usually, there is a couple other options. Most of the time, the reason that you succumb to that one excuse saying, I didn't have a choice, is because the fear got the better of you. Your fear clouded your judgment. Your fear took over. It limited your perspective. It put blinders on you, and it caught you in that terrifying imagination of yours. And told you there's no other way. This is what it's got to be. It's either this or that. So please, the next time you get ready to say, I had no choice, think about that. Really think about that. Ask yourself, did I really ask for a second opinion? Did I really consult anyone else? Is this the only thing that I can possibly see? Is there any other angle I could look at this from? And then make your decision. You're not going to take someone telling you that you have cancer at face value. You're going to go get a second opinion just to double check, right? You're not going to see the post of somebody that says, your favorite artist died without checking Google or some other post, right? To just double check, well, is this real news or is it fake news? You're going to double check the source, right? Why wouldn't you do that when you're in dire straits, when you're in a situation where you got to make a decision and it could change your life forever? And trust me, every decision can change your life forever. Please take a minute, take a deep breath, count to 10, calm yourself down, get out of your feeling phase, get into your thinking phase, and ask for a second opinion. And see if those are the only options you have or not. Now, if you have trouble doing this, let me know. Hit me up. If you've ever been in a situation where you've said those words and later found out, yeah, there was another way you could have done it, but hey, it's done now, you got to deal with the consequences, let me know in the description below. I've given you a couple examples in my own life. I know now that I could do better. I'm hoping, and I hope not, if I ever find myself in that situation again, that I will choose better. But I won't know until I'm put in that situation. Honestly, it's really easy to point your finger at, characters in a movie that made tough decisions. And you're like, oh my God, don't you know there's another way? But when you're in it, when you're waist deep in a decision that you got to make that will change your life forever, what you see is different. The options you see before you are very different. So don't beat yourself up too much, but do ask yourself, all right, let's be honest here. Is it really the only thing that I could do? Is that only all there was? Was there no other option for real? And like I said, if you want to learn how to be a little more aware, if you want to learn how to be a little more brave about asking for help, hit me up. Let's talk. Let's talk strategy. Let me give you the tools you might need to be able to open up and ask for help. Otherwise, you know where to find me. You know where all the free material is. You know I'm here for you guys. I love you. Get some rest, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.